Hey everyone, KJ4YZI, HamRadioConcepts. We'll take a little flashback here, or something new that you may have not seen with my subscribers that I have now. So this radio, I actually made a video on. I had this radio probably, 2 or 3 years ago? And I had like 12,000 subscribers back then. But anyways, I picked this radio up again on Amazon. Now when I had this 3 years ago, I remember I did a video on it and said, I want to keep that because one day I could use it for satellite. And I'll tell you why I think this is pretty decent for satellite. As you know, if you've seen the last few videos, I have the satellite bug. I am hooked on amateur satellites, especially since I've had that 9700 and I made that contact at field day. I'm hooked. But you may be thinking, wow, that's kind of expensive to get into ham radio satellites, having to buy an $1,800 9700 and all this other stuff. No, not really. In fact, sometimes I don't want to drag that thing out to the driveway to make a simple contact on an FM satellite. So I wanted another handheld. And I do have one or two other handhelds around, but there's something a little bit different about this one that may make it just a little more fun or easier to work those satellites, and I'll tell you about that. But I thought this was the best deal on Amazon, and the link, for those who yell at me and say, you don't ever put the link, talk about what you're putting there. Okay, the link is in the description. So if you want to buy this exact radio that I bought, the link is in the description of the video. And I bought it on Amazon. There's probably a couple other places. I know there's a couple other places you could buy this. But I figured this one right here is actually, the entire kit comes with an extra antenna, programming software, earpiece, and everything. I'll show you that. This is what they pronounce as Wouxun or Ocean. It's actually, people call it Wouxun. I think the manufacturer said Ocean. This is the KG UV8D Plus. And they actually have a 9D Plus, but the reason I picked the 8D was because it was a little bit cheaper. They both have dual band VHF UHF with a crossband repeat and full duplex. Full duplex is the key word, because with a full duplex handheld, you could actually transmit to the satellite on the uplink and hear yourself on the downlink. That way you know you're making it through the satellite. You don't have to have a full duplex radio. The 9700 is full duplex. This is full duplex, and even the Alinco, I think it's the G7T, but when I was reading online, there's a lot of bad reviews for that G7T Alinco that says the full duplex is terrible, probably because of a desensing issue on the front end of the receiver with the internal duplexer. And I have read a couple of those on this radio as well. So the bottom line is this will do everything that someone might need for a traditional handheld radio. Let's say you're new to the hobby and you want an inexpensive radio that is better than a Bofeng UV5R, okay? This may be it. And this is probably 3 years old, 4 years old now in the market. But like I said, this kit right here I found on eBay or on Amazon with 2-day shipping on Prime, and it comes with everything. You know, the manual, the charger, comes with a car charger, cigarette lighter adapter, so if I am portable, I could charge the thing. It does come with 2 antennas, one here and one underneath. I'm not sure if either one of those has more gain than the other, but you know, the charger. And then underneath here it comes with programming cable and software, which is important. And we're going to show you that they have their own software, which you can download from the manufacturer, but also Chirp is compatible with this radio. So if you're a Chirp fan, it's compatible. Something that I always used to throw away on all these Chinese handhelds are the little earpiece. But this may come in handy finally, because on full duplex with a satellite, you can have an issue where as you're transmitting and you're hearing yourself come back through the satellite, that's getting retransmitted onto the uplink, and it becomes a loop on the satellite. Your voice is going, coming, and that'll howl on the satellite. So it is advisable to mute or put it in your earpiece so that the radio can't hear what's coming back from the satellite and retransmit. Does that make sense? Like a loop? So this may come in handy. And it also comes with a speaker mic. I'm not sure if the speaker mic would operate full duplex like that. It may. Maybe I could use a speaker mic instead of the earpiece. We'll find out. But for $135 shipped to your house for all this, there were other ones that were like $129, but sometimes those Amazon sellers, when they're not Prime, it's like 3 or 4 weeks. I always rush to get stuff. So, okay, you know, not to go exactly all through this entire thing again, dual band with a duplex crossband repeat. What's that mean? So the duplex crossband repeat, I've used in the past when I'm in the living room and I want to talk on a simplex, but my handheld won't reach. You can set this up with an outdoor antenna and use another handheld to transmit into it, like on UHF, and then retransmit on VHF from here. The problem that I found with this online by reading is the SO50 satellite usually has a 2-meter uplink and a UHF downlink. And that same issue exists with the desensing of the receiver when you're doing that. Probably because of a third harmonic that's really close to that frequency. So as you're transmitting on the VHF, it's kind of desensing the UHF at the same time. So from what I read online, SO50 may not be usable in full duplex. Half duplex, yes. But the other ones like AO85 and AO91 and some others, completely usable if you have a UHF uplink and a VHF downlink. Okay? So this really sums it up that I can go outside, you know, instead of trucking out my 9700 like I did at field day, or bringing it outside in my driveway like I did this week. And having to set it up, I have a handheld, and I do have an antenna coming. I'm going to try something other than the Arrow. I have a high gain antenna that's coming. But what we'll do is we'll just turn this on real quick and give you a brief overview. Maybe my video from 3 years ago, and some other people on YouTube have a more in-depth video about this, because I've already forgotten more than I've knew about this, and I'd have to start all over. But anything you'd want in a handheld is here. CT CSS tones, offset, shift, you know, all that kind of stuff. 136 to... Actually, I think this one, these newer models with this firmware, I think are locked to the band, but you can go on the software and unlock it for out-of-band transmit. But, you know, so it's got a color screen, and not too bad to read. You know, it's got the VFOA, VFOB on here. And from what I read, the newer models, like the original ones, have the green buttons. Okay, those were originally the demo, or, you know, see the green buttons here? Those were originally the demo models, and then the final production release was the black buttons here. Not a big deal. But if you have green buttons, you can automatically assume that this is a older version, but I have the black version, black buttons. So a lot to be had in this radio as far as going into the menu, you know. I mean, going into the menu, you can change all the different things, you know, the squelch, the Vox, wide, narrow, you know, scrambler, codes, everything like that. A lot of stuff. I'm pretty much only going to program this for satellites. I don't really need to program this for all my local repeaters. I just want to use this for satellite. And in the future, when I do make a satellite contact with this radio, I will try to show you that and give you an idea on how it works. Another cool thing about having a handheld like this instead of dragging out the 9700 is I have the mobile linked, the Bluetooth TNC that I told you about, you know, in the past video, and they actually make a cable for that, which I can plug right into the side of this and Velcro it on the back or whatever, and I could actually use packet through this with the TNC and the Bluetooth app to upload, you know, APRS off the Digipeater on the International Space Station or some of the other packet satellites. I could actually do that without having to drag out 9700 and do all that. 9700 doesn't have a built-in TNC, so I would have to connect that anyways. With this, it's just as easy to slap that mobile link on the back, and I can go right out in the field. I can take my antenna out to the river or the ocean or field day and just 1, 2, 3 get on it. Maybe the quality of this is far, far lower than something like a 9700, but I get it. Not everybody can afford or wants to buy a 9700 to work a satellite. For me, it just made it that much more exciting. But you can do it with a UV5R Bofung. You can do it with one of these. Okay, and these are perfectly suitable for somebody that wants to use it for a repeater on FM. You know, if you're a new tech, congratulations on your upgrade, your license, and you want to get on a repeater, fine. This is an option. So I'm going to fire up the software real quick and just walk you around it and show you what the software would look like. This says compatible with Windows 10, and we'll see if it works. I'm using Windows 10. One more thing to note on this is, now, some of the handhelds that are out from China, and even the more expensive ones, will go to a 2.5 kilohertz step, meaning when you're tuning, it'll go, you know, .800, .797.5, .795, it'll go 2.5 kilohertz steps. This one will only go to 5. Now, from what I understand, the 9D will go 2.5 kilohertz steps, and I think it was some kind of thing back in the day where they said, yeah, Wouxun is going to release a firmware update to fix that. This one I don't think will do that. But AMSAT and all their radios or all their satellites online say program your handheld with 5 kilohertz steps because they assume that that's what all the radios have. So it is perfectly usable with only 5 kilohertz steps to adjust for Doppler shift on the satellite. And we're going to talk about all of that in future videos, okay? Especially once I get this satellite tracker going right here. This is the next video. All the parts in here of what this guy developed or designed here and all the parts online. We're going to go through that, go shopping online with you, show you all the parts. But in the meantime, the UV8D, I think, is a suitable handheld for full duplex operation on most satellites on FM. And there's other people on forums that back that up, that have said this will work with that. So let's check out the programming software real quick. I'm going to put a link also to my original video in here because maybe you didn't see it. With the last 30,000 subscribers I got, you can check that radio out. For those who follow me, you might get the idea of what I'm showing here. So let's check out the software. I'll put a link to the video, original video, and in the future we'll be using this for satellite contacts in a driveway or out on the beach. This website is also in the description of the video, Wouxun.com, and you can go to like programming software here and display for the model that you want. And here's all the softwares down here. Once you download that and you install the software, we can go like this, open this up, and make sure your COM port is correct in Device Manager. Mine is 4. So the first thing you do is go to Memories, COM port, and select your COM port here for the radio. Make sure the radio is on and plugged in. Once you do this, just go to Memories again and click Read from Radio. And you'll see on the bottom it starts building the little blue bar here, and it's downloading from the radio. So this is the stock Wouxun software. And some people said they don't like it. I don't know why I need anything more than this. In fact, Chirp works rather well too. And once this reads, I'll show you, I have a couple just dialed in here just for testing sake. Now, what I tried doing here was I actually tried, if those who ask, to program in a 2.5 kilohertz step. And it did take that and said it wrote it to the radio, but the radio only changes in 5 kilohertz steps. So it'd be .800, .795, .790. It didn't take this one. But everything can be set here for, any repeaters, receive and transmit frequency, your tones, if you want to change your tones here for transmit, power, wide, narrow, and stuff like that. You can also in this radio store FM broadcast memory, so you can listen to your radio stations while you're out in the field. Also, if you wanted to use call settings, which I don't really use those, you can program the side keys here. 4 different functions, like the PF1, programmable 1, 2, and 3. You can change a couple things and edit what those keys actually do. Configuration settings, there's different things in here for scan mode and all this, battery save, and what you'd want. You could change in the menu itself, but if you want to change all these and write it to the radio, it makes it easier. VFO settings, this is where you're at on VFO instead of frequency mode, and you can see the step size says 2.5, but it actually won't acknowledge 2.5 once it writes it to the radio. But 5 is totally usable for those who have been doing satellites for a while. You can do it with 5 regarding the Doppler shift as the satellite's coming toward you and away from you, having to adjust the Doppler shift. You can do that just by bumping it 5 kilohertz steps on the radio itself. So this is the actual stock programming software. When you're done, you can save it and go right to radio and it writes it back. Or you have Chirp, which is right here. Now Chirp is freely downloadable. The link for this is in the description as well. And a lot of people prefer Chirp over the factory software from Bofeng and all these other Chinese radios. Now this one here does the same thing pretty much. You set your COM port, then you hit download from radio, and you can see there's a lot of different manufacturers of radios in here, so Chirp might work for something else other than this if that's what you have. And it'll give you this is experimental, do you want to proceed? Yes, and it'll start reading from the radio, and again, the same thing happens. You can program memories, tones, and everything, but one thing that Chirp has compared to the factory software is that you can import from other databases like Repeater Book and RFinder. We'll show you that. Kind of like what you can do with RT systems. You can import an entire city from another database, if you will, and write it to your radio, even marine channels. So I'll show you this. Go up here to File and open Stock Config. You see you have other things here, marine channels, NOAA channels, and you can just simply click on one, and there's all the marine channels. You could write that to the radio, okay, without having to dump all those in. You can also go like this and import from data source right here. If it's a DMR radio, which this one is not, you can upload the DMR repeaters into it. Radio reference, repeater book R finder, and stuff like that. So let's see, repeater book proximity query. I can go, I don't know, Orlando, Florida maybe. And distance we'll do 50 miles, and we'll do 2 meters. And it should pull all the repeaters like this, Altamont Springs, Apopka, and it'll dump it right into the radio. So again, I'm not interested in all that. All I want this for is satellites. So I'm going to manually program in the satellites for all the ones that I can work with a handheld on FM, write it to the radio, and away I go. But that's an overview of what the chirp looks like compared to the factory software, and you can see that this is working with Windows 10 on my computer with the stock cable, so there's no issues there. And just make sure your COM port is set appropriately. And for those who don't know, if you go here and type in Device Manager, and you go to your Device Manager, in your ports is where you'll see this programming cable right here. Now, if this says anything higher than 20, let's say you use a lot of ports, you're going to have to manually assign that to something less than 20 because that's all the software looks for. Okay. In fact, I wonder if Chirp has anything different for the ports. Maybe download from radio. Let's see. Yeah, see, so Chirp will actually show you if it's labeled 22 or 23, whereas the stock software just goes 1 through 20. So that's the programming software in a nutshell. Very easy to program frequencies in here for satellites. And I like how the speaker on this thing is a little louder than a lot of other handhelds I've used, especially louder than my Yaesu FT2DR. That thing is, I've tried several of those, and it's just not loud. This one's got a nice speaker to it. It's almost like it's really loud. KJ4YZI for test. It's really loud if you want it to be. Someone was there, I guess I...
Whiskey 4 Juliet Charlie Hotel, this is Joe in Vero Beach.
Okay, Joe, W4JCH, very good, KJ4YZI. I just wanted to make sure this was working and see what the audio sounded like, over. That's the first transmission on this thing, so I hope it sounds good.
Yeah, you're clear. A little static in the background, but that might be me. I'm a bit from the repeater. But yeah, clear show, nice and strong.
Oh, very good. And this rubber duck was about 5 miles of repeater. All right, Joe, thank you very much. Yeah, just a stock antenna here in the concrete house, so at least I'm making it there. 7-3, thanks for the report, KJ4YZI. Overall,
Whiskey 4 Juliet Charlie Hotel.
Overall, I think it's decent. The link is in the video, and this is what I'm using when you're asking, what handheld is that on that satellite contact? It's the Wouxun KG UV8D Plus. 7-3, KJ4YZI.